Hey, hello, hello, hello. I am hoping I'm not roboting because, of course, just as the intro was finishing, my internet went into the yellow, which is exactly why we rescheduled this from Wednesday, having the same problem. But I am actually hoping. Oh, it's coming back up a little bit. How's it sound, guy? Can someone in the chat, Mark, Jester, anyone that's watching, can you let me know? Is it roboting yet? Do I need to restart? Hmm. I'm just hoping you can hear me clearly. All right, I'm gonna keep going then. Oh, hey Tilly, nice to see you. Thanks for coming by. I did remember the banner. It's early too. I'm only on my first couple mark. I definitely am gonna pat myself on the back for that one. Hey Turtle Moves. Well, welcome to a new earlier stream. Hey cats, how you doing? Nice to see you. Um, I'm going to start doing at least one stream a week earlier for some of you that have really been hitting the DM saying that they would like a little earlier show here and there so they could participate live. So welcome to all of you. We did reschedule this from Wednesday because we were having an internet issue, but I'm happy to say that although the stream started in the yellow, it just went to green. And I'm great. Hey, Couch, thank you for being here. It's nice to see you here, Couch, so early. So, anyway, we're going to get started. I will give you the choice, though. Uh, we've got a few gentlemen today to speak about. One that, well, I do talk a lot about, not that it's pleasant. And the other one is just a fascinating case. But we've got Bryan Kohberger, not Kerberger, Kohberger out of Idaho, Moscow, with the Idaho 4 University killings. And that trial's been going on for quite some time, since 22. We also have the Romanian case. There's quite a bit of stuff on additional information, so to speak, in regards to the Tate case in Romania, and just a tie into the UK also a little bit there. Not a huge presentation on Tate, so if you would like me to start with that, I will. But I'm going to give you guys the rope. So just put like Tate or Bryan or Kohberger, or just a T or a K, and we'll get started. Otherwise, I'm just going to choose. I'll give you a second. Oh, hello, my favorite Republican. This is my favorite Republican, too. This is the only Republican I even talk to. This is the only Republican I would talk to, unless it's like, just that I look forward to talk to. Let's just put it that way. Dealer's choice. And okay, Tillington. Tate it is then. Okay, so let me pull off. I'm gonna just go grab then. All right. In order to do Tate, I think you guys have I've said it before. It's pretty hard to get legal documents out of Romania. We were successful for quite a while, actually getting the translated documents out of Budapest. We do get a lot of stuff in Romanian, and it has to be translated. But there's a couple of Twitter accounts that have been, pretty honest about the stuff. I would say they're not Tate fans. I'll just put that right out there. The listings that I have in the description for several of these accounts are not exactly Tate fans, but they are putting through actual documentation, which is what we look for on this channel, to actually help everybody stay informed, let you make your own decisions. I want to put both sides out there. I will say that one of the accounts, called Tate News, was avid Tate supporters for quite a long time, at least the first year or so that I was covering this. But recently, have actually been putting out the documentation from the second case and just trying to put both sides out there. I think they're starting to see that there might be something to this. Now, whatever their reason being, jumping on the bandwagon, overwhelming information, or light bulb going off, I have no idea. But I have listed them. because in fairness, they do try to do both sides. And I think it's important for you guys to see like what the other side is saying, besides the rhetoric that we get from like the stands, the people just, you know, tagging on to everything with, oh yeah, it's the Matrix, and oh yeah, it's a big conspiracy, because we all know that's not true, you know. Couch, hit me up if that is true, because I will tell you that the one journalist that we were using was also covering the Ukraine war, and he had gotten to a little bit of an iffy situation over there in regards to the Russians, and all of his social media is gone. Like, he vanished in seconds, like gone. We heard that he's okay through the grapevine, like people were just passing it around that he's, but he needed to like get out quick. Like, there was some threats being made, like in regard, I mean, serious threats. Like, we saw the words missile in the threat. Like, no, like, I don't blame him, but he was like main source because he was a journalist, and he was actually going right in there to Romania, and he was working with the Romanian journalist right there in the court. But now, I just want him to be safe. We all know it's not true, or do we? Yes. You mean the allegations? Well, I don't want to break your heart. I don't want to break your heart, Turlington, but Turing test. I'm sorry. I keep saying Turlington, and it's not. It's Turing test. My apologies. Uh, mm, I would say that's what we're going to talk about, because I can't actually say it's not uh, true. I can't say. I can say this, and I will, because you guys know me. You know me pretty well. I will say that Andrew and Tristan Tate have not been found guilty in a court of law. They have not had their trial yet. No, they haven't. Have we seen some stuff? Yes, we have. But that doesn't matter until it gets in front of a court and it gets decided. What we do know is, in the first set of charges that were bad enough, actually went through judicial review, which is required in Romania. It's a 3-judge process. It takes a long time. They went through mounds of evidence, and I do believe I have shown you the table full of binders and everything, to the evidence that Andrew Tate says does not exist, that they have nothing. Unfortunately for Andrew Emery Tate, whatever you want to call him, or Mr. is forgetting that he is the best source of evidence against him. Not only do they take exception to what they believe happened, they're using his own videos on how to do it and selling this practice to others as evidence against him. Oh. In those binders was years worth of text messages and emails with all of the young women that were working the OnlyFans type accounts for Andrew and Tristan T. Obvious messages between other associates that were also starting this business. And now we're finding that there are leaked messages to Andre Lee from the DM, which is like a mobster type organization, a criminal enterprise that is also under DCOP investigation. It has been for quite some time. There have been charges that have been pressed and that have actually come to fruition with some guilties. It's stacking up against the Tates. But the first thing that I want to show you is this one account that I have here. This is listed in the description. This is Agent Adrid, and if you go to the Twitter here, and I know some of you don't use Twitter, but it's really hard for me to get actually the source documents. When I can, I will link them. If you contact me, I will try to get you some of them. Some of them still need to be translated. Well, as a report, like, not reported, I'm not a reporter, you know that, but as we discussed, let's put it that way, about a week ago or two, the second set of charges against the Tate brothers are quite serious. The human trafficking, actually making it much more serious, that some of this human trafficking and using this technique to secure themselves in the lives of young women occurred with some of the women below the legal age. We're talking minors here. There's at least two documented cases of minor interaction, and the actual minors are the source of the information. Um, Unfortunately, it is really kind of tangled because when Andrew Tate made his statement coming out of the Romanian court after being arrested 2 weeks ago on the second set of charges, which include money laundering, intimidating of witnesses, and actually coercion of a minor into a sex business type thing, and also actually having relations with a minor. Yeah, it's pretty salacious, okay? But actually, I'm not going to show you all of the messaging that went back and forth, because the reason I'm showing you this account, Agent Advert, is because if you want to actually see the details of the text messages, the phone messages, and the emails coming out of Romania, here's the thing. All of the evidence for the second case became immediately available outside, like everywhere. Like the first case, it was very difficult to get information. The second case, it's like everything's in out already. Um, I don't know how it is getting out, but it from previous DCOT investigations, I have seen that it's not unusual that some of it does get out. You know. But basically, it is a cats, just to tell you, to keep you a little more informed. Andrew and Tristan Tate, along with two of their accomplices, Georgiana and Luann, were arrested previously for using the lover board technique to coerce women into thinking they were the only one, just to lock them up in a warehouse and keep them doing soft porn for money, in keeping their passports, not allowing them to leave, using harassment and intimidation techniques, but basically bringing them in even from foreign countries. Now, there is actually a case there in the UK also about some of this that's coming to light. There was an investigation years ago that was tabled until a civil suit was started, and then it got reopened, and the investigative forces put out notices that they were looking and investigating into the situation, and more women came forward. And now you actually have a case there in the UK. The UK actually filed over the Romania for extradition, which was granted. That once the first case, if Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate are ever allowed to leave Romania, they will be extradited to England to face those charges there. You also have a unpaid tax in stealing from the crown case, which is being settled like right now. It did go on delay actually to the settlement of that, but without even their present, they used, without them actually coming in to represent themselves, because they can't leave Romania. There's actually the tax fraud case there, to where unreported income did not get any taxes paid on it, and they're absconding with the money. They're keeping the money there in England too. They're trying to tie it all up. DCOT has again seized assets of 4 or 5 different properties, more cars, more bank accounts, more things from Andrew and Tristan Tate and the other women, and they've also started to arrest more from what I can see, gentlemen that were in his war room, so to speak, on the same types of charges, with the second slew of charges that are coming out of Romania. Okay. Um, both Emery, Andrew, and Tristan have been accused of having relations with minors. Now, in the case of Andrew, I will state that he has a good valid point here. When he came out of the court, which I started this a few minutes ago, he came out of the court and he stood on those steps and he was very angry, and he said, "They're trying to prosecute me for having relations with my baby mama. Like, she is the mother of my children. We're in a long-term relationship. We've been together for 6 years. This is ridiculous." Okay. Um, and that's true. it does sound on the surface as to be bollocks, right? Like, oh my gosh, this is like, who does that, right? Like, you meet somebody, you fall in love, great, like whatever. Except for the messaging started at the age of 15, except for the messaging includes coercion in the lover boy technique, almost word for word for what he teaches to use, except for you do not need the victim to press charges when you have relations with someone who's a minor. That's statutory. Love don't matter in breaking the law. Well, okay, like it's the law, and they can press that charge whether he's in a committed relationship. So he says whatever. What I don't know. Like I'm sorry, the word committed relationship and Andrew Tate, like those statements, that's an oxymoron. Like I can't even see. It's like big shrimp. Like I can't even put it together. Like forgive me, I just can't go there. Well, this is what he's saying. Is it true that he has a child? Yes. Is it true that the person who has outed themselves as Vivian, and it has been said that it is Vivian, or someone he's been in a relationship with 6 years, his very first actual OnlyFans type of account. But here's the problem. Legally, he could not do that when she was 15. Legally, he could not put her on the internet in a sexually explicit enterprise before the age of 18. And he did. So there's problems here. With or without permission of Vivian, it was against the law. He broke the law. Okay? Ethically, morally, it gets a little tangled up here. I get it, but the law's the law. Okay. Now, he wants us to believe that that's the only thing. There are 35 women in the second case. There are 35 women, adding to the totals that we had before, with more women coming forward in the UK and more women coming forward in regards to the Romanian case. We are up to almost 61 alleged victims of the Tate enterprise. And that's what I'm referring to it. That's not how it's referred to in the legal documents. Okay, I am referring to it as an enterprise because now they're going after him for money laundering. They are now proving to the courts that he bought cars. They have actually in exchanges with car dealerships, in other members of the war room, in other members of his, let's use the word posse, the women involved, where he would put all the assets in other people's names to keep them safe when he started to realize assets were getting froze. They just didn't then. He was on judicial control from the first charges when he intimidated a second witness, offered her money to give softer testimony to D-Court that actually put him in a better light. She documented it, and it's all in the second file. This is an issue for Andrew Tate, and maybe one of the primary reasons that after arrest, he actually received house arrest. He's no longer free to roam all over Romania like his brother is and the other women. Most concerning, when you go to this account, and it is linked below, or you go to Murder by Crayons or Tate News, you're going to find interactions, okay, between Tate and others, mostly Tristan and Luann, or Tate and Andrew, and that's with Andrew Tate with Georgiana, and this is how they worked in teams. The women were in control, like the fit, like always with the other women that were doing the soft porn sites, okay, the pay-per-view kind of soft porn sites that they were making money on. They were actually looking for other women. They would actually find out how they were emotionally. They were the ones making the threats. And now we have documentation that there was physical things going on too. And there's a lot of documentation on how involved these women were, taking orders directly from the gentleman. But here's the problem for the Tate brothers. Those text messages back and forth clearly show either Andrew or Tristan directing these women what to do. Were they actually participating willingly? Yes, they were. Were they offering opinion on how things could be done? Yes, they were. Okay, but it does show at the direction of the brothers. They were the yes or no about what got done. And that to me looks very, very damning. Okay, so the purpose of bringing the Tates up today was just to give you a status. There was a lot of speculation when they got arrested as to why Andrew isn't in jail, because he should actually be in prison, based on the fact that under Romanian law and the rulings, that if you violate your judicial review, so to speak, you're under judicial control. During the first case, he wasn't allowed to leave Romania, but he had behaved and he hadn't done anything, so they were letting him roam around and conduct his business, but he couldn't leave the country. Okay, as many times as they tried, they could not leave the country. All right, all of his appeals have been overturned. However, now they have evidence that actually coercion, intimidation, and trying to bribe a witness, well, doesn't that sound like a violation or something against the law that might actually violate what here in America or perhaps in the UK would be probationary type terms as to your release from your prison? Yes. And that has to go to court. But what we're finding out with the Romanian court system is it's very long and it's a long process. Currently, the second charges, although they have been put under house arrest, they still had a hearing today, which again was moved a couple days away to the 16th. Again, this is the third reschedule, I believe, on whether or not Andrew Tate should have. DCOT is asking for stricter restrictions on him based on what he did while he was under judicial control in regards to intimidating a witness. And now that they have 35 witnesses to worry about, and he just doesn't seem to have any regard for, not speaking with them. He actually came out and said all 35 of those witnesses are in support of him. Well, that's definitely not what the documents are showing. Most of those women have come forward and agreed to testify. Okay, what they're telling him is one thing, but him coercing to try to get affidavits is actually illegal. Or he should be going through his lawyer. But they actually have contact with him doing it himself and actually offering money, and that's a violation. And DCOT, which is the investigative unit that is in control of the investigation only, prosecution is something else, okay? They actually put through documentation that they are requesting that he's a risk to people out here, and that could be the deciding factor. If he is a risk to society while he's out, then he should actually wait for his trial behind bars, and they want to send him back to Romanian prison. you know mm-hmm. But I don't know. They are so used to being in charge that even when the authorities are watching, they can't stop intimidating people. Exactly. And or making deals to hide assets. And or trying to move money around. They just discovered when they went back for a review more assets that weren't declared. And they're holding everything. It's getting a little sticky, and it's getting contentious too. The Tates lost all of their appeals with their lawyers, and they did put up a very good appeal. Their lawyers were in there all the time, every step of the way in the first round of charges. But it does appear that that judicial review is done. All the appeals were denied, and it is going forth to trial, but we don't have a trial date. And from what I understand, that could be a bit of ways. Romanian courts are a bit slow on this sort, and as long as they can keep them in Romania and they have the assets froze, they're not in a hurry right now. And it did give them time to finish the second investigation. Even in the charging of the first set against him, they had indicated that they were also having another investigation at the same time, and that they were looking into more human trafficking, which is the biggest violation here. Human trafficking is becoming a big buzzword internationally everywhere, and there are cases popping up everywhere, even in something here in America that we just think is just like, this guy's just wrong. Well, if we talk about Sean Combs, P. Diddy, you just hear the word human trafficking repeatedly in regards to sex trade. Okay, they're linking the two together a lot in a lot of the cases. And it's going to become legislatively, which is why am more interested. The laws are becoming uh, changing everywhere in regards to it to make it easier to ensnare what has been a very difficult claim to prove in court. Okay. Uh, uh, I'm not a fan of Andrew Tate. I think his misogynistic in attitude towards teaching young men how to get along in the world is quite damaging, not just to me as a woman, but to the young men in general. And I see him causing great harm in the world. So I've never really been a fan, and I've spoken out on it before this case even came to light. But the real reason that I am following this or giving information on this case is to see the legislative changes in regards to how are they going to prove this lover boy technique where you smooth up to a young woman, possibly vulnerable, possibly naive, younger, not really, knows much about the world. You make her convinced that you're in love and you get her loyal to you and she thinks she's the only one, and then you move her into a warehouse with 12 other women and they're all just doing whatever you want because they want to keep you and they want to be the one. Okay. Andrew Tate's uh, messages back and forth, especially in the beginning of these relationships with the women, is all about proving your loyalty. I need to know that you will be so loyal to me as a man that you will do things that you're uncomfortable with or don't agree with because I want you to. Because that's how I guide, I judge loyalty. Because that's how I put value on my relationships with a woman. It is very clear, it is very direct. And then when you get into the other messages that you can all find on the Twitter account that I gave you, you can find these messages in regards to the women back and forth where they're being intimidated, coerced, manipulated by the others in the group. Also, to me, if they lay it out properly, and I don't know how this is done in Romania, it looks like a very good case to prove to a jury. They're going back years. They got 10 years worth of missing of stuff. Or 8 years at least. Okay. I saw messages all the way back in 2015. The UK case goes back even farther than that they're documenting on that. Hey, Jin, so good to see you, dude. Mm-hmm. Yes, Liam, all those cars. And, they keep trying to get the assets back, but again, the assets are staying frozen because now with the money laundering charges, they're not going to be releasing assets until they know that money's clean. Now, there is one thing I want to report in regards to the Tates that could be favorable to them. It just recently came to light that they had a $9 million Rumble contract. Okay. And if they can prove that that $9 million was used to pay for any of those assets, then some of those assets could get released because the reason they're holding the assets is because they're saying that they were bought with illegal money laundering or unpaid taxes or through illegal efforts. The sex trade, human trafficking. Um, Actually doing this soft porn is not illegal. We all know that. Coercing, intimidating, or locking women up, taking their travel papers, keeping their belongings from them, and intimidating them to do it. Well, that could actually be very illegal. Okay, and seems to be the crux of the case. Okay. Yes, he should be in a cell, not in a gated compound, having parties. I agree. I agree. Because if he is home, he has still got the internet and he is still free to cause the damage that he was doing. And to intimidate witnesses as they're going to try to prove. Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. Well, it's a bit much. But the big thing I have to talk about today, and I want to move right to it. If you guys are okay, I've got to check for a couple of more questions in the chat, but then I'd like to move on to Kohberger because gosh, is there a lot there. Okay. Hey, Liam. There's a worldwide industry of tricking men and women into visiting a person who has convinced them they are dating and then being effectively kidnapped and made into slaves in organized compounds. Gee, that's it in a nutshell. Lover boy technique. This is what they're accusing him in. And Andrew Tate's answer to that, and I heard him say it himself, is like, women love me. They want to put me in jail. I can't, like, women love me. They know how it is. They want to do what I say, and they want to put me in jail for me. This is the Matrix coming to get me because, like, I'm all that in a bag of chips. No, no, I don't agree that he's all that in a bag of chips. I think he's the soggy pickle. But hey, what do I know? That's just my personal view. So I'm not a lawyer, and I'm really trying to be as unbiased as I can here. But damn, it's hard. Give me a break here. I really think Tate is the soggy pickle. Like, sorry. They didn't seize the computers as evidence. Yes, they actually have copies of a lot of that. They have emails from those computer system drives going back to the early 2000s. Just they actually do. That's how they have all these emails stored. It's either through iCloud or whatever, but they've got everything. I mean, with all that money and all of that smarts, you think they would have, like, really, with all this big war room, in it's bad enough these guys don't wear socks, but they also don't invest in technology to protect their wrongdoing, which is, I thought that was like, Mafia 101. I mean, I can't help it. This guy's such a wannabe, but he's not doing the work. I don't know. Not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed, I'll tell you that, when it comes to protecting his assets. Yeah, I know that, Jid. Yes. That's a whole other bag of worms, what's going on with the Epstein Island. I get it. I get it. All right. So I'm going to bring up the other one now. I don't see any questions. I feel for you, cats. It must be tough to come into a case that we've been covering for 2 years and try to just get hit with a brick like that. I feel for you. I really do. I do. Mm. So, all right. Here's the thumbnail. Getting ready for the presentation. Okay, that's Bryan Kohberger. Bryan Kohberger is being charged with 4 murders of the Idaho 4th students. He has been in jail without bail in Idaho, in Moscow. Now, just to bring you up to, I'm going to actually go back to the last status that we had. Where we left it is that there was going to be, in August, there was the venue change hearing, okay? And then the state's deadline for their evidence in witness list for discovery that the defense was arguing they didn't have. And then we were coming up on November 7th, which is the death penalty hearing. And boy, is there a lot to cover about what's been going on since then. Okay, so we had the hearing, and there was a lot of evidence put out in regards to, remember, there was that survey done by the defense, paid for a survey. They did calls. There was a whole what to do about that, on whether those calls were appropriate. There was a whole bit hearing. Anyway, the survey stand, it was done by a company reputable in doing this, to find out if there was undue prejudice against Bryan Kohberger in actually the area where the crime was committed and where he's being held, and whether or not he could get a jury seated that would be unbiased so he could get a fair trial. Now, regardless of how anybody feels about whether somebody does something or not, here in America, justice prevails. We have to be fair to both sides. Whether you think someone's guilty or not really doesn't matter. Following procedure to make sure, if they are actually guilty, that there are no loopholes for them to get out, and that they get a fair trial, a fair chance to actually defend themselves. Okay, and that there isn't any undue prejudice by anyone involved, including the jury pool. And that was the whole thing. The defense's position on the whole thing, and boy, did they bring in a lot of experts, okay? And they did. They made a very solid case. They put a lot of effort into it. They said that based on the media coverage and because of the personal heightened nature of the crime because they were students, they were younger. This is a university town. Everybody coming in and out of it was affected, businesses. It is the talk of the town everywhere. The emotional trauma of Moscow itself in Latau County was overflowing even years later, that it would be difficult to find a jury that was not affected by it. Okay. Now, that's not to say that the media coverage didn't reach all over Idaho, let alone all over the United States, and possibly even outside of our borders. But what they say that the concentration in that area made it impossible at the town of the county of 45,000 people could not come up with 12 that wouldn't be in some way prejudiced either emotionally or with extenuating knowledge of the case to actually fairly be unbiased. And here's the kicker. They successfully proved to Judge, who was our judge, Judge John Judge, on this case from the beginning. They successfully proved to him that even during the voir dire process, where you get to actually ask the juror what they know about the case and see how prejudiced they may be, it would be impossible to actually show if they had been turned emotionally somehow towards key issues in this case. Point being, this could be a death penalty case. Back in 2023, the prosecution made it very clear that they were going to go for the death penalty. Okay. And how is that going to affect everyone? In the emotional charge of it, that constitutionally, this makes it a much more complicated case. It actually makes it much more difficult. And also on the judge's end, is the need to be very careful. Judges normally are. They want to zip it up. They don't want any loopholes. They want to dot the I's, cross the T's. And they're usually very balanced in their decisions because they want justice. They're looking at both sides. They're not the defense or the prosecution. They're in the middle, making sure justice gets served for everyone involved. The victims in the defendant, the victim's family, and those that are left. Okay. Because a lot of the family is in the general area, there's been a lot of reporting. Judge John actually did agree that it would have to be moved. It would have to be moved. His words itself were, it is undisputed that there has been significant media coverage in this case throughout the state and nationally. Mr. Judge wrote that while some of the coverage has been neutral reporting of the court proceedings, much of the coverage has been sensationalized and prejudicial to Kohberger. And I would say since his arrest, I have witnessed that. And I have seen that everywhere in the socials. There are not very many supporters or declarers out there. When pushed, they will say innocent until proven guilty. But that's not the first thing they're talking about, I assure you. That is not the first thing anyone is talking about out here. Okay. Judge was the judge, but Judge was decided to let another judge, not judge the trial. Exactly, Liam. Coming to that next. Because not only did Judge agree that there needed to be a venue change, okay, in his ruling, he did not decide what county it would go to. What he did was toss it to the state Supreme Court to decide what county was most appropriate for it to go to, in which judge would actually take the case. Because Judge had decided he's not leaving Latau County to follow this case, and that's his prerogative. Okay, I kind of don't blame him. All right, especially based on what happened after, because then we learned that not only new venue, new judge, new jail. Well, then the Supreme Court did put out of State of Idaho, one of those the judicial body there came forward and said, well, we've got a new venue. Okay. Therefore, after due consideration and good cause, it is ordered that the venue for all further proceedings was transferred from Latau to Ada County in the 4th District. It's also ordered that District Judge Stephen Hippler will be assigned to that case because he's in Ada County. Okay. And it is also further ordered that now Bryan Kohberger will be removed from LaCow County Jail and taken over to Ada County. And that will be transferred by the Sheriff's Department. Okay. And then the district clerk in Latau County, the former county that was hosting the proceedings, is going to put out this whole notice and yada yada yada. Okay, and that was done by Judge Richard Bevan, the Chief Justice in for the state. All right, so we're going back to Ada County, and a lot of you are familiar with the Ada County courthouse because we had other Judge Boyce actually had to travel over there for the Daybell trial. Now, Latau County and Ada County are approximately 6 hours away from each other and 331 miles. Will it be enough? Well, it is a larger county. It does have a larger jury pool to go from. So there is that benefit there. But it does create some issues. Prosecution now has to move there. I don't blame Judge John for wanting to travel there with his clerk and with actually knowing that this was going to be televised and it was going to be a long trial and he's going to have to show up for motions. I don't blame him for just using his opt out. And that's all he had to do is say, okay, you can transfer it. And you're transferring it all. Like, I'm not going to go with it. What will it do to the case as far as actually delaying it? I don't think much because everything is pretty well documented. We still have some motions on file that have to go through. But recently the defense has done something that could cause a little bit of delay in the new judge getting up to speed, but at least it won't be redundant work because at least Judge John didn't have to go all the way through it first just to transfer it over. And we'll get to that next. Okay. This is Judge Stephen Hippler. Okay. He's a very well respected judge in Ada County. Okay. He's been appointed. He was appointed by Governor Otter. Yes, Governor Otter. Like, he's already got my vote right there. All right, just judge for the 4th Judicial Court. And he's in Ada County. He graduated in 1991. In addition to his civil and felony criminal calendar, which is pretty heavy, Hippler presides over the Ada County Mental Health Court program. And he also serves as the Deputy Administrator District Judge for the 4th District. And as the administrator, he's the overseer of every civil and criminal case over $10,000 in Ada County. He's a big cheese. Okay. Right after taking the bench, he was a partner at Gibbons Pursley. It gives a little history here. He was a partner at Hall Farley, Albrecht and Bloughton, and in private practice, he actually represented mostly doctors, hospitals, other medical providers, doing medical malpractice actions, business disputes, and actually legal regulatory matters. In other words, like sticking, like more of the black and white kind of stuff. Judge Hippler is a Boise native. He is very, born and raised right there. He is definitely ingrained into the area. Okay, with his connections. Okay, so on the new jail part, it's being reported through KHQ, which is a local news, and I actually went to their site to double check that the Latau County Sheriff Richie Skiles had told him that Kohberger will be transferred to Ada County within 30 days. Okay, and it's a different kind of jail situation. And the reason I wanted to show you the distance between the two counties is because this isn't also difficult for the prosecutors and or the judge. Well, the judge doesn't have to transfer now. The staff that will be handling the case as far as the court is concerned will be in Ada County. And that will keep, some of the inconvenience down. However, the prosecutors are going to have to travel, and so will the defense team. And Ann Taylor herself, who is, I would say, well, I don't know if she's the chief or Jay Weston Langdon is the head. Jay Weston Langdon is like is like very high up in the defense, the district attorney's defense team stuff. He's the chief legislator actually there, and I would say I'm not sure which one of those is leading the charge, but we've seen a lot of Ann Taylor in speaking, and she's been promoted as like the head of the team. Well, Bryan's chief, Ann Taylor, defense attorney, is 500 miles away from Ada County, also. So it was hard for her to get to Latal. Well, now it's 500 miles away for Ada County too. So actually getting there to meet with her actual client, to get to the hearings and for the trial itself, it's going to cost the state a lot more money. However, they feel it's prudent in regards to making sure that a fair trial does happen and that there's less prejudicial leanings towards Bryan Kohberger in the negative. And that's fair for justice, but it is going to be quite costly because now all of law enforcement from Latau County, who of course are going to be testifying in the prosecution because of the investigation, and we've got the crime scene investigator, and we've got the people from the testing and everything. They're all from Latau County, and they're going to have to travel or be put up or whatever to Ada County. Now, is that unusual? No, happens every day. It honestly does. It happens every day. Uh, cases get transferred, people have to travel, expert witnesses, whatever, and it costs the state money. In Bryan Kohberger's case, it's probably warranted. It is a high profile case in order to prevent some of the appeal or Supreme Court issues, some of the prejudicial issues that could come up as what if, is probably a really good move. And I could totally see why Judge John Judge actually did what he did. And based on the survey that was done, but it was pretty obvious. You got to weigh the needs of the prosecution and the needs of the state versus the needs of the prejudice against the defendant. And although now the victim's family need to travel also, and it is very unfair, it appears to them, and they have been very vocal in the media in regards to how unhappy they are about this move. And because they are going to want to be there every day for court, and they are going to have to travel every day to do it or put themselves up in hotels and such. Um, so it's a bit inconvenient for them also, but it had to be weighed out by the system based on prejudice, right? So, all right. Next, as if that wasn't enough, okay, we then, on September 4th and 5th, the defense team, okay, and actually, I'll need to take this down for 1 second to actually, I want to just show you who we're talking about here. I like to do that. I'm going to go back and go to a previous area, and I didn't want to flash you guys. This is Ann Taylor. She is on Bryan Kohberger's defense team. He has public defenders. She's a public defender. She's been doing really excellent work. Anybody that's heard her argue with the judge in her oral arguments after motion, she is quite a stickler, and she's been putting out a lot of motions. But the ones on September 4th and 5th, although were hinted by Ann Taylor in previous sessions in front of the judge, uh, actually were written mostly by Jay Weston Logston. Meet Jay. Okay, he's also on the team. In the last ones, and a good arguments that were written by Alyssa Mossoff, who's also on the team, who was the last one hired into the team for assistance when this became such a huge case. She helped with the arguments in change of venue quite successfully with her oral arguments in front of Judge John Judge. Okay, so uh, back down again to get to the other. I hate the flipping around of these stuff, like, but we're now, because this case is so long, we are now into like 80 different slides for this. Okay, well, let's get back to the death penalty motions that were actually filed September 4th and 5th. Okay, 13 filings. Okay, in regards to the death penalty. Okay, that, as I said, the prosecution is said back in 2023. But now we're coming up to the hearing as to why, and they're putting their motions forward because they'll have their oral arguments hearing on November 7th. Okay. But there were 13 different motions. Could it have been done in one? Perhaps, but in my humble opinion, and you know I'm not a lawyer, I'm just a woman named Bear with a mic and an opinion. Okay. I love this stuff. Before you even ask, yes, I read every one of them. And yes, it's over 1,000 pages. Yes, I did do that. And did I love it? Oh, yeah, sometimes I actually did. Yeah, nerd that I am, it was a thrill. Okay. But I got myself well versed on most of it. And basically, they're going to hit every issue of the death penalty they can. In a nutshell, that's the simple part of it. Like that's putting it in simple terms. But the defense is throwing everything they can against the death penalty. The whole like one of these issues is going to get it through. And in a way, it's a good thing because the death penalty is quite the constitutional issue. It's quite the issue for the Supreme Court, and it does come up repeatedly in having things overturned. It takes a very long time, even if you do prosecute, get a guilty verdict, get the death penalty approved. It takes years of appeal and review. In our country, you automatically get an appeal. It's gone over by a higher court to make sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, and there's no issue before this happens. In our country, here in the United States, not every state approves of the death penalty. Some still do. Idaho does. Idaho has a rich history in it. They just brought it back, 20 or so years ago. But they brought it back, okay, and they have had some failed executions. Yeah, it's a hot topic. They're also the state that because it was difficult to do lethal injection, because based on finding veins, which was the problem with the last one that tried to be done very unsuccessfully, also a decrease in the availability of the medications that are necessary from the drug companies themselves through the cost. Well, Idaho just put out that, well, they're going to approve firing squads as a means to provide the punishment when someone gets the death penalty. I kid you not. Yes, they did. Okay, so anyway, back to the motions. So these are the motions. These are just the titles, and in parentheses is the number of pages, and then the initials are who actually from the defense team put this all. And just to cut it short, there are over 1,000. Some of them are exhibitions. In when they are actually exhibits, I have put the motion filing itself in the first, and then slash, considering the total pages at the end, so you can tell like that most of it was exhibits or stuff to prove it. Okay, so they have a motion to strike under disregard aggravator, motion to strike the death penalty on grounds of state speedy trial preventing effective assistance of counsel. And I've got a little bit to say about that. Motion to strike state's notice pursuant to Idaho Code on grounds of arbitrariness. Okay. Motion to strike state's notice of intent to seek the death penalty on grounds of intentional law and memorandum in support of motion. Oh, God. No, not done. Motion to strike state's notice of intent to seek the death penalty on grounds of contemporary standards of decency and memorandum in support of motion. Motion to strike state's notice of intent to seek death penalty on grounds of vagueness in balancing aggravators and mitigators. And we're going to get into all of that. Motion to strike notice of intent to seek the death penalty on grounds of failure to present aggravators to neutral fact finder. Motion to strike multiple victims aggravator. Motion to strike hack aggravator. Motion to strike future dangerousness aggravator. Motion to strike felony murder aggravator. Now, these are all qualifying factors to why you go forward for the death penalty. You only need one aggravator, actually, to actually have the state go for it. It's the state's decision whether they can, and they do have somewhat of a guideline. They're hitting every part of the statute guideline that they can. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Motion to strike felony murder aggravator, motion for court ordering requiring the state to provide notice of every alleged non-statutory aggravating fact or circumstance it may rely on at any sentencing trial, and to prove beyond a reasonable doubt every alleged non-statutory aggravating fact and circumstances. In other words, we want you to try the evidence in front of us for death penalty just in case. Like, we want you to lay out the case, like right here, right now. Okay. Really, they only have to file. And then the last one, motion and memorandum in support of motion to trifurcate the proceedings and apply rules of evidence during the eligibility phase. Now, this was something that Ann Taylor had talked about. And just to actually put it in layman's terms, normally in a death penalty case, it's bifurcated. There is the actual penalty stage and the punishment stage. In other words, you got to actually be convicted of the crime, and then we'll decide like what the punishment is. In this case, okay, per their statement, trifurcation of the proceedings is necessary to protect Mr. Kohberger's state and federal constitutional rights. Mr. Kohberger respectfully requests that this court grant the motion to trifurcate the proceedings into guilt, eligibility for the death penalty, and then the death penalty sentencing phase. In other words, we want to make sure that he's guilty first. Then we're going to actually see if it even qualifies to even be considered under the death penalty, because we got these 13 motions over here touting the constitutional 8th and 14th Amendment, and even one that says internationally the death penalty is not favorable and we should go with the status quo. I kid you not. No, they're making it worldwide. They're like throwing it out there. They're saying, regardless of the states, the state voted and chose to have the death penalty, you're all wrong because it's not popular to do it anymore. In modern trend sense that reasonable people don't kill people, and we're not going to do it anymore. Basically, that's kind of the argument. I know I'm kind of like making it a little simple, but I'm doing that on purpose because for me, this was brilliant. This was worth reading through everything to just find out how far they were going. When I tell you there are no borders in regards to their argument for death penalty, there are no borders. They're going around the world, every state. They don't care what's going on in Idaho. They are making this a big picture item. They are expanding the view in the concept and the issue beyond the realms of even being able to handle it in one hearing. I actually lit a candle for the new judge, Judge Stephen Hippler. My thoughts are with you. Good luck, because wow, this is going to be talked about and legislated and cause changes and ripple effects everywhere. I would not be surprised if state versus Idaho versus Kohberger becomes a landmine case that is used everywhere. The way the defense is coming at this, some of you may see, well, that's ridiculous. They're just like, they're grabbing at straws. They're throwing everything against the wall to see if something would stick. That is true. But the arguments themselves in the constitutional and worldwide view stand up to water. And I'll show you as we continue. Okay. Kohberger defense team's arguments, just to put it in a nutshell, after reading 1,000 pages, okay, you can thank me later, send me kisses, send me otters, send me coffee, whatever. Anyway, Idaho has no viable method for killing in a capital punishment case. They are going to use the fact of all of the failed attempts, the fact that they haven't been killing people regularly. They do actually have 9 people that have been on death row with the term, one of them a woman, okay, and 8 men that are waiting, okay, and they did this, in 2023 have a failed attempt, and they have recently put forward that they're going to use firing squad, which there's a whole separate argument within the motions in regards to the firing squad being illegal, unconstitutional, blah, 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 hasn't passed muster, is still being fought in the courts, and all of that is true. Okay, the method for obtaining death penalty punishment by the state is unconstitutional. She's referring to the firing squad here, and the fact for cruel and unusual punishment is going to come up because of how they have actually been doing death penalty punishment by lethal objection in quite a few of the failures. And they're not only in the state of Idaho itself, but elsewhere. Okay. They're also going to state that 10 months is not enough time to prepare a capital punishment case due to the heightened constitutional security. Now, I would agree. If there was 10 months, then I would agree. Just for the record, this trial is scheduled for June of 2025. But I will remind everybody, and perhaps Ann Taylor herself, that when she argued for actually scheduling of this to put it off to 2025, she said that she needed that time because it was a capital death penalty case. Now, that was months ago. Okay. And I would also like to remind you that in June of 2023, the state gave notice that they were actually going to go forward with this as a death penalty. Okay. Consequently, considering all evidence currently known to the state is compelled to file this notice of intent to seek the death penalty, which happened on June 26th of 2023. And if that's when they made you aware, that's not 10 months. 10 months to September when you filed this notice, yes, to June, but no. That's a year, and that meets the minimum. And that is actually what you argued for in Taylor, Miss Defense Attorney, in your oral motions. This is a little unfair here. Okay. Maybe they'll get more with the new judge. I don't know. All right. Well, saying that it's cruel and unusual punishment and then using the world to help prove it, well, that became quite the thing. And what I have for you that love to read, let me just, I go to check the chat too. On the death penalty, I am going to give you guys, where is it? Okay. First of all, one of their experts did an excellent paper on this, and boy, are they bringing out the experts. I'm going to show you soon. Okay. They definitely I'm also going to give you their expert witness disclosure because there is the curriculum vitae there. And in there, one of their witnesses, the paper that I just linked and the study talking about the study is actually in there. Okay. But I also want to give you for the state itself. First of all, here is the link for our country for the death penalty information by state, by statutes, arguments for and pro, what's been going on everywhere in regards to it. And then, in particular, here is Idaho's drill down on the whole thing. The reason I'm giving you all of these links is that because we're going to have that hearing November 7th, and if it is public, I'm going to try to do it live. I am going to try to get a good feed and give everybody. I do know that this is an issue that many of you have come to me in regards to the death penalty. We had it with the Daybell case. It's been talked about in others. It always is a very good discussion, pro and con, and we learn, right? We learn about how legislation is being crafted pro and con everywhere in regards to it. And I think that in regards to the Kohberger case, this is going to be one of the most pivotal issues. And this is what's going to really more so than the change of venue, because media interference in trial by public prior to an actual court case has been an issue. Okay. But there hasn't been much change in how things are done that way. But I think that this case can actually make some what I would call legislative changes in law, changes in standards repeatedly. And I want to see it happen, pro or con. This is why I do this. This is what keeps me going. This is more fuel to me than coffee. Yes, I said it. Stuff like this. Okay. Um, Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Okay, so I don't know how you feel about that argument about the time delay. I think a year, it is a capital case, but they knew it was a serious capital case from the beginning. Okay, and they knew how serious it was. And based on their findings, they've already done 1,000 pages of documentation on the death penalty. I think they're ready. I think they're ready. Okay, if they did that, okay, I think that they will be just fine in June, should it happen. I also want to know what you guys think about trifurcating the case. I actually think that's a good idea. Although it does help the defense actually do their work. It is going to put everything out there for them, kind of, and it does make the prosecution jump through hoops. And let me tell you, the prosecution is not too keen on that, because they're also, the favorite thing to do about the defense here is to keep filing motions for additional discovery that they don't have everything, but they have everything. So the last notice from the state prosecution that just came through just listed for everybody. Yep, I hit it here. What they actually, when they actually sent it and what it was, and just like kind of like, we've already done everything that we're going to do and stop asking, kind of thing. You know what I mean? um that was the study. Oh, there's so many links here. Oh, here it is. State's response. Here it is. Oh, by the way, the website that's listed below, Idaho has listed this as uh a high profile case, so it's on the website. And if the items are not sealed, because some of it is, like when they do the jury questions and stuff, we will not have cameras, anything to do with the jury, on the jury, or in regards to the questions that they do. If they have a hearing in regard to that process, it will all be sealed. We won't see it. And there's a couple of other things in regards to evidence that are sealed that only those involved in the case can get to. And I agree with that. Okay. Although we want the listings of what the evidence is, we don't need to see it. We don't need to be tearing it apart. We do not be lining the pockets of others. And you guys know how I feel about that. I'm not going to get too much into it. No, because that is unfair, and that kind of like puts the whole system of what we say is the judicial process at risk there. Okay, and I don't like when jury pools get tampered with. It just affects everything, and everybody like kind of agrees about that. That makes it prejudicial. And the object is justice for the victims, their family, everyone. Okay, and also to make sure that a defendant is tried fairly. Oh, that's justice. That there isn't is prejudice. And everybody out here like trying to dissect the evidence. I like looking at it too. Okay, but I have to admit that it gets really uncomfortable to see how far some people go in what they will do. And I try not to do it. I know, like, just even saying I'm doing true crime is like a blemish on the whole thing, because of that. I'm here too speaking on it. But what I'm trying to do is put out the public information, and I'm trying not to get a little crazy, uh, get too crazy about the rest of it. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be a hypocrite about it. I do have some lines and some boundaries in regards to the whole thing. But to each his own too, because I ain't not the ruler of the universe, as we all know. Let's talk about the expert witnesses that they're going to pull in to argue on November 7th about the death penalty. And these are the defense witnesses. Barbara Wolf herself is a medical doctorate. She's expected to testify, outlined in her affidavit filed with the court on September 5th, in the defendant's motion to strike state's notice of intent to seek the death penalty on grounds of vagueness in balancing aggravators and mitigators. Now, the affidavit you won't get to see because it's the testimony, because they're saving that for trial. But you will get if you the link that I gave you in regards to the expert witness filing, which is public on the thing. If you don't get the link, if you're coming later and you don't get the link from the chat, if you go to the idaho.gov site that I have listed under articles and sources under Bryan Kohberger, it's all there. Okay, and it's clearly identified as the expert witness disclosure from the defense, and it was filed on September 4th or 5th. Barbara Wolf is being listed. She's an expert in it, and she's got a very good argument, and she's in our country one of the ones going around that is actually used in many states and in many arguments about this, and it's a good solid case. And just to get yourselves up, not that I'm leaning towards the defense, I just want you guys to have the information about where stuff is coming from in some of these articles, in the legal arguments in regards to our Constitution, in also bringing in the arguments of morality, in ethics, in actually worldview. are astounding. Like it's kind of eye-opening on where they're taking this. Okay. The second witness that they listed was the article I gave you on the study that Elisa Culver had done. She's also from Idaho, and she, they're actually referring to her article, which is mentioned in what I sent you, and actually a link to the actual article, narrowing the death penalty eligibility in Idaho, an empirical and constitutional analysis. And this one actually focuses on the 8th and 14th Amendment that actually allow the processing of the death penalty, but actually are where we get the listing of what mitigating factors are, or aggravating or non mitigating factors that actually say why we shouldn't. And the state's argument is that there are nothing present right now that says we shouldn't go for the death penalty in regards to the Bryan Kohberger case. Um, at all. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, but if we go back, and I'm sorry, I know we're going to, oh, no, where, maybe it's in the forward. These ones here. No viable method for killing in a capital punishment case. Well, yes, they did add firing squad, even though it's been squabbled about. Method for obtaining DP punishment by the state is unconstitutional. Yes, there are arguments for it, but after all, the state still does approve it, has brought it back, voted on it, and the state's constitution says it is. Okay. We already went over whether or not there was enough time, and the kind of the argument there is that's not true about the 10 months. Okay. Cruel and unusual punishment it's not speculative in opinion. Okay. Most of the ways, I mean, getting shot, and I don't mean to make light of these, but getting shot quick by a firing squad, well, that's not cruel. It might be unusual. It hasn't been done in a while. Lethal injection is usually quick when done appropriately, but the lack of the drugs or medical personnel being able to find a vein, people being strapped in a chair, held against their will, and then something just injected into their neck. I mean, there are pros and cons on both sides, but it is usually quick. Okay. Electrocution, the electric chair, which was the most popular means for a very long time, has actually been touted as actually cruel and unusual because of the failure rates, because of how long it takes, because of what happens to the body while it's going on. Is very difficult for those that are seeing. And yes, the actual victims' families are allowed to come and watch this. This is part of the justice process, and it's open for view in most cases. I can see where that's not like being done anymore. Okay, but this is our prosecuting team, Bill Thompson and Ashley Jennings, and they are actually going to be pushing because they still want it. Okay, they still want the death penalty. There's been nothing from them that states otherwise at all. Okay. All right. Let me just talk about the 5 aggravating circumstances to which you can go for the death penalty. Okay. And those 5 aggravating circumstances are: at the time the crime was committed, the defendant also committed another. In Bryan Kohberger's charges, he's also charged for burglary. He broke into the home before the murder. Oh, not he allegedly, it is being claimed that he broke into the home and then committed the murders. Okay. Crime was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity. There has been statements that the amount of blood, the multiple stab wounds, killing several of them while they were in bed sleeping, the amount that there are 4 of them, okay, using a knife, okay, which is like a physical content. Yes, they're deprived of their young ages. Defendant exhibited utter disregard for human life. Now, part of the defense's argument, and I really want to hear what you have to say about this, is that the fact that he killed 4 people is not utter disregard for human life. Even though it wasn't during an argument, it wasn't the result of him trying to defend himself against 4 people broke in the middle of the night, allegedly. Okay. But the fact that he killed someone is not another disregard for life. That could be that is an interesting argument. Well, yeah, it's in those 1,000 pages. Okay, that's what they're saying. That aggravating circumstance doesn't exist just because there was no because he killed them. Okay, the crime committed in the perpetration of or attempt to perpetrate one of a number of listed crimes, included but not limited to robbery, burglary, or mayhem, and the defendant acted with reckless indifference to human life. Now, the prosecution team is saying he broke in, that's burglary. Did he? But here's the defense's argument. Can you prove that he broke in intending to rob? What did he take from the home? But the burglary charge doesn't mean you robbed. It's entering entering a locked or prohibited place, without permission, in with intent, like to actually knock down a door, bust through a window, where you don't belong, where you have no basis of being. Okay. All right. In it, the defendant acted with reckless indifference to human life. Well, yes, he actually allegedly murdered 4 people during this burglary. Okay. Or defendant, by his conduct, whether such conduct was before, during, or after the commission of the crime, exhibited a propensity to commit such crimes, which will probably constitute a continuing threat to society. The state is saying the fact that he killed 4 people that quickly and left, well, who's to say he wouldn't do it again? Because they don't have a motive of him having any issue with these 4 people. Okay, these 4 students. They cannot find like that they were all out somewhere and there was a big altercation, that they were slandering him or harassing him in any way. There's no tie to he's related to one of the girls in a tryst or one of the guys stole his girlfriend. None of that. They can't find anything. So they're saying, well, he is a threat to society because if he did it like this with like that, he would do it again. We don't know that he wouldn't do it again. And just the fear that of all of this in a university town to happen where no murders have happened in years, well, it is a threat to society. And they wanted someone arrested and they wanted him not to be released on bail. And they actually used all of these aggravating circumstances in the bail hearing as to why he needed to stay locked up. But now the defense is saying that none of that matters. And I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that the prosecution is actually pulling it too close to the vest here in regards to this? Like, could it be? Could it be that it's not as solid a death penalty case as we thought? Oh, let me just check back to the comments. I'm sorry I'm behind. Hello, Paul. He's the real life Flash. Then 7 minutes to do the crime, clean up, and not be seen. Damn, he's good. That is part of the stuff we have to look at in the evidence, and we don't get a lot, right? I want them to explain that because it was a very short period of time that he is supposed to have been in the home committing all of this. I do agree. That is an issue to look at. Okay. Hello, Juju. It's the very definition of disregard for life. Perhaps it isn't an indifference if you weren't intending to kill and were just reacting to whatever happened. That's a real reach. And I agree, Juju, especially when you take into light what Paul C. just said in regards to the short period of time that the crime took. The break in with intent, it looks like, to commit those murders does show an actual indifference to life. Okay, because there are 4 of them from one to the other and then had to go to another room for the other 2. And it was a very short period of time from what they're saying. Okay. You are not kidding, cats. And just for the record, that's how it goes here for every single one. Every single one. Every week. Every week. And I'm following 23 cases. Yes, you could start praying for me now. Yes, you can. I do need help. I definitely need help. But I love this stuff. I absolutely does. Okay. it is true, Paul. She's going to be closer to her other clients. If you're referring to Ann Taylor, will now be closer to her other clients. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be cutting a deal. This is an interesting aspect. I do know she's still 500 miles away from Ada County. It's going to make it a little difficult. But damn, she's a top-notch defense attorney. I'll tell you that. Like, he's very lucky. You know. What does any of this have to do with defense or state arguments for death? What I'm okay. You're talking about something in the chat. Sorry. True, true. Yeah, Paul, I know that you have a lot to say in regards to the evidence, but like that's one thing I won't do here is like until I actually see the evidence in the trial, I don't really want to speculate on a lot of it. Um, we do allow everybody's opinion, and you're more welcome to discuss it in the chat. But if you do feel you're getting any resistance, that might be what it is, because most of the time we're concentrating on the filings and where this is heading, legislate, towards the courts, and we don't want to get tied up into evidence that is not part of the filings that we're talking about right now, which has to do with the death penalty. Although I see your point that certain evidence could be brought up for the mitigating factors for the aggravating factors. I get that. I totally understand that. And that's actually viable. Because there is the time factor and all, and that is part of what trifurcation is going to do. And that's what I wanted to, let's talk about that for a minute. If they do trifurcate the death penalty phase, there would actually be the proving of it like guilty with the evidence first before they even get to the qualifying factor of whether the death penalty would be appropriate, and then like how would that actually occur. So yeah, it could be part of it. We could actually see more evidence if there is actually a public hearing like that for the death penalty phase. Um, we did in the Chad Daybell trial, or we did get to hear both sides on it, although it was short. I can't imagine the Kohberger side, just knowing these two teams, the defense team alone, I can't imagine it would be short. I would imagine it would be days. Days. Okay. All right. Well, and Rocket Couch wants to Ari earlier, the Romanian person I know of isn't a journalist. Okay. Ah, all right. Well, maybe if they have information, just get in touch with me. Yep. I know that you're talking about the cell phone data and all of that, which was released. I get it. I get it. And that, you know what? We probably will have streams in regards to that and the evidence when it gets closer to. And I do welcome you to come back, Paul, again and speak on all of that. But right now, I really just want to stick on the death penalty part and what's going to happen on November 7th. Okay. And I haven't seen any filings trying to exclude that particular evidence yet. And so if they're not going to exclude it, I'm sure they're going to be using it in their defense, and it's all going to come out in the trial, and it's going to be great conversation at that time. But right now, it's not really going to benefit us in the chat to go back and forth. Although, like I said, your opinion is more than welcome. Oh, the video. Oh, the video. You're speaking on the video. Okay. Well, I do know there was a lot of cell phone data that was accommodated, but you're talking about the video. Do you mean that night outside like I had the house before? I'm not sure which video you're speaking of. You mean the one with law enforcement outside showing up for the noise complaints prior to? Or are you talking about some of the video that perhaps captured the vehicle when he was traveling around? Because, Bryan Kohberger's, for those of you just coming into this, Bryan Kohberger's stated alibi is that he routinely drives around by himself at night to think. Because they had spotted a vehicle very much like his, not actually proven tit for tat to me anyway, in what I've seen, but the trial hasn't happened yet. We don't know everything they have. I haven't seen like there's definitely that was the white Hyundai here, definitely that here. Yes, they have some license plate. Yes, they have some testimony of people seeing him here and there. They've got CCTV of traveling through paces and stuff, but I'm just not like Oh, so you're saying that they have video of him elsewhere that he wasn't there at the time of death. I guess that's gonna be based on the corners and stuff. Like that would be wow, wouldn't that be a slam dunk? Couldn't they get the whole thing dismissed? And why isn't that in the alibi? Well, it is actually in the alibi in the broad statement of I was driving around. Like, so I couldn't have done it. So I guess it is there in the alibi. You are correct. Yeah. Yes, it is very going to be very interesting how they handle the timeline. I agree. I totally agree, Liam. Well, I'm going to wrap up with the status right now. If you guys don't want to discuss more on what's going to happen with the death penalty, I do recommend a little bit of research in Idaho itself. But I will give you fair warning. The defense is reaching well outside of Idaho's statute in regards to um their pleadings, their motions in regards to getting the death penalty off the table. They're going worldwide. They're going expert. They're going to go heavy. It's going to be very much like the change of venue. And I'm all for it. I like to see the legal in action kind of stuff. But Paul, I hope you will come back when we do something more in regards to evidence. If it does, when they start releasing that stuff, to where I mean, I know a lot of it is out there already. I get that, but when we actually can go forward it on what's actually going to be um permitted and not, like that's going to be exciting to go over. So to wrap it up where we are with Kohberger right now with the statuses, like I said, November 7th is the hearing. That these were all scheduled with Judge John Judge over in Latale County. They all have to be reaffirmed into a courtroom under Judge Hippler in Ada County. I cannot say absolutely that the dates will stand, but I do think that it would be behoving of the system to actually keep the dates and try to work around it. But we'll have to see what happens scheduling, and I'll be watching the docket for you and keep you updated. But it does appear that November 7th would still be the hearing unless it gets, Hippler needs to move it to something else. That's at the judge's discretion now that he's been signed. He may even say he can't go through with the hearing because he needs more time to get up to speed. He's just getting the case. So as far as these states, I'm not absolutely certain that they're going to stay. But either way, the state has until October 10th for their deadline to file their response to 13 motions in 100 pages, 1,000 pages. No, 100. I wish it was only 100. It's probably only just over 100 as far as actual pleading of argument. The rest of it is supporting documentation and evidence, exhibits and stuff. So there's quite a number of pages of that, that weren't actually the legal pleadings. Oh, all right. So they have until October 10th, and we'll see where they go with that. After that, in we've got the trial in February. In February, we have our suppressed motion. In our motions in Lima, these are the ones towards the actual trial. We still have the trial date happening in June. We're gonna have to see, but we're gonna keep our eyes for November 7th and see. And I'll give you, as I always do in one of the other sessions, like maybe Tuesday, when again we're gonna have to talk about Sarah Boone. Now we're getting close to the October 7th date of Sarah Boone. Not that I want to move away from either Tate or Kohberger. If you have questions, please just put them in there before I wrap up in the next few minutes. But um, Boone, there's been so much activity going on, and that's expected because with the trial coming up so soon, her being pro se, now getting an attorney and an assistant attorney on, but the stuff that's going back and forth is a little bit crazy. A little bit crazy. I think you're going to be surprised on Tuesday. I do hope that you enjoy an earlier time. I do plan on doing these on Wednesdays and perhaps on Fridays earlier during the day which makes it a little easier for some of you that, like, I know I've got followers in the UK and Australia and have been hitting me up like, could you bring your true crime a little earlier for me? I'm so tired at the end of the day, and it's really, really late. And I get that. And replay is always an option, but I want you to be able to contribute. So I do hear you. And there is, with the trials all coming up so quickly, there's been so much that there's been overflow from Tuesdays. I cannot possibly cover the updates to all of these cases in just 2 hours on a Tuesday night. So I'm going to add another 2 hours during the week, and I'm going to keep that up until it filters down again. Um, just on channel news, it does look like there's another civil suit going on in the P. Diddy case. And there was also a civil actual filing that I find hysterical that I'll probably, I don't like to do video, but I am very tempted to put a short video out on this one because it's so lit. But I'm not going to cover the P. Diddy, Sean Combs allegations until they go criminal. But from what I hear, it's really leaning that way. The investigation is really steaming up. There's been quite a bunch going on. We all know about the home raids in Miami and his main home. It does look like it may be actually leading towards some kinds of charges. So we'll see. If it does, I'll be covering it then. Besides this short little video I'm going to do on something I find hysterical. I will actually be streaming later on. I'll be on panel over at the Utopians. I'll be putting that on the community tab after this, and also out on Twitter, so you can follow. We have Godless Engineer that we're interviewing today over there with the Utopians, a small little group of free thinkers, so to speak, that I do enjoy hanging with them. And of course, I'll still be paneling over. Mr. Katz is in the chat over there with Doom and he over on 8 out of 10 Cats doing roundtable as long as they have me, because gosh, that's a lot of fun. If you haven't checked out the new way we did the quizzes, boy, was that a hoot Thursday. And yes, they're trying to keep a good woman down. They keep changing it up, but it ain't happening, because I got my fellow Republican Clarence over there. He did really well. I'm sorry, Mr. Katz. You were doing so good. So good. You were doing so good. Well, I mean, your day's coming. Your day's coming. I mean, you just got to keep at it. Like, I'm sorry. I know. I'm taking it on. I know you got thick skin. It'll be okay. Anyway, that's it for me today. Yes, you did win, Clarence. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And it was like, just so you guys don't, check out the replay. It was a hell of a lot of fun. And for those of you that want to actually contribute, they are looking for other people on panel, and they are actually looking for contributors in the chat for the quiz. It's really a lot of fun. If you got, it's on Thursdays at 8 o'clock at night in the UK, 3 o'clock here. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you, Turning Kids. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Paul, for being here and providing additional information for the chat. We do appreciate it. Like I said, I welcome you back when we get to more evidence discussions. But for this, it was, it could lead to too much speculation in regards to the death penalty that we're talking about right now. I do have a Discord, Paul. If you're on Twitter, you can hit me up there. There's also an email on the back. My Discord is for members and collaborators. But you know what? I don't see a reason not to get into the server. But I will definitely give you. Here is before I This is my Discord for messaging. You have to send me a friend request, I think, before it will allow it to go through. But I would like to talk to you in regards to the evidence and stuff like that. I welcome additional opinions on all of it. It's a little different than how I do it. I do not like to get into speculation, but damn, do I like to look at the facts. I definitely do. And I like to put it all out there for everybody to make up their own mind, just so you know. But yes, and for anybody else, that's not just for Paul. If you want to contact me personally, Twitter, Instagram, use the email on the back, even on the, comment on the back of the videos. I will answer questions. I will look for information. I think that you should have as much information as I could possibly get. I know sometimes these streams seem a little overwhelming with the amount of stuff that I put out, but it's because, like, I don't want to just be up here saying this is what I think. I want to know what you think. My passion is actually in discussing all of this and where is it going and what are the legal ramifications here and there. How is it going to change? I don't do large media coverage all the time, although quite a few of the cases that I'm covering are very, very high media profile right now, but they usually have a legal twist. And there's quite a bit in the Kohberger case, quite a bit. And one of them, and I will go with Paul C. on this, is the real lack of any physical evidence in regards to this case before he was charged and thrown in jail. No, it won't add me direct. I have to approve it, and I'm not on Discord right now. So, like, if you would just like send a friend request, and I will just do it, okay? Or put yours in the chat, or send me a Twitter message or an Instagram message. Okay, and I'll do it, Paul. Okay. And if you list it, I'll have the mod delete your message right away when you list it. I just, like, if you want me to send it to you first. Well, that is actually, oh, wait. Oh, you know what? You're right, Paul. There's an E. I just looked at it. I typed it without it here. That's my damn keyboard, Paul. I'm sorry. You see the E there? That's probably why it's not going through. There's an E at the end of Claire. And I could see now that when I posted it, I might have left that E out. But that's it. I mean, I've got friends on Discord everywhere. So, you know. But if you're more comfortable, it's listed on my about. Can one of my mods grab it? Hold on a second. It's also in the description. If you look down in the description of the video, everything is there on how to get a hold of me. Here is here's IG. It is it's Clairview 307. Oh, thank you, Purple. Yeah, I do hope that you do get that request through, because I would like to see what you're talking about. It's a okay here. I also have Facebook. You can do Messenger. Hold on a second. You'll have to put the request in. I do requests. I do get a lot of harassment, so I do sometimes with the Facebook and all. I have to, and the Discord especially. I do have to approve it. The wrong line. I know. I did, Rocket. Yeah. And there's my Twitter. Thank you. Okay, so I've got the Instagram in there, the Facebook, and the Twitter. And if it regards files, like here is actually my email. I think that covers it. Okay, and then I've got the Discord. My personal Discord ID is up there. All right, on that, guys, I think I'm gonna call it. Okay, I will be, with Juju on Sunday, doing a nice, relaxing, chilling chat with our Sunday vibes. And it's gonna be about absolutely nothing. Oh no, I did too, Rocket. I had to delete it. It was like this huge long thing from the description. It was crazy. I thought maybe you saw it, but I deleted it real quick. Anyway, we're gonna do nothing on Sunday. I can see that my internet is going into the yellow, so I'm banking out now, guys. I will see you all. Don't forget to hit the like. Don't forget to share. If you know anybody that's interested in any of this stuff, don't forget to share. There's a huge playlist of all the different kinds of cases that we're covering down below. But that's not all I do here. So share, comment, subscribe, share the channel out. Things are I will, Paul. I'll do that right after the stream. Okay. And like I said, you guys have questions, hit the back of the video. I'll try to get answers for you. If you've got comments, it all helps the algorithm. And from my personal experience lately with my channel getting botting and all of that stuff, The algorithm actually does exist. I've been the benefit of it lately. I've had a little bit of a rise, and I hope that you will help me continue to do that, because I'll still be here doing this for you as long as you guys like it. Okay. All right. Have a good night, everybody. And I'll see everybody on Sunday, if not tonight, over at the Utopians. Have a good one.